Welcome. Welcome to our Hangout series, Innovation by Design. And today we have a great topic and great panelists, as you'll hear as we move forward. And the topic today is transformation experiences, designing with the customer in mind. So over the next hour with our innovation and design experts from UnitedHealth Group and Bose, we'll explore the challenges and benefits that come with creating transformational customer experiences and how companies can design for them, thus the topic. So let me jump in and introduce our panelists, and then we'll hear from them. So first, we have Ed Boudreau, VP of Product Management at Optum, or UnitedHealth. They're part of UnitedHealth, and it's a Fortune 6 company. Hi, Ed.
Good morning.
Ed leads Fusion, an internal innovation and consulting team that leverages design thinking methodologies to drive business experience and development strategies. And next we have Debra Rich, who is the user experience design strategist for consumer wellness at Bose. Hey, Debra.
Hello.
Debra's been designing, developing, and selling audio equipment since 1964. Debra's been developing products for over 20 years. Her work has been focused on the user experience across both hardware and software platforms. She also lectures with Tufts Gordon Institute, teaching experience design management for professionals pursuing an MS degree in engineering management. So very impressive folks, and really welcome having our panelists on and hearing what they have to say. Just if you were wondering, I'm Gretchen Hoffman. I'm Vice President of Marketing at Altitude. My role today is as the moderator. And Altitude, for anyone who doesn't know, is a design and innovation consulting firm based in Boston. We were acquired last year by Accenture's Product Innovation Group, and we have clients like Under Armour, Nike, Thermo Scientific, to name a few. So now let's jump into the panel dialogue. And Ed, I'm going to ask you to kick it off here. And let's start with talking a little about, can you elaborate on why it's critical to design with the customer in mind? And if you truly want to offer a memorable experience, why the customer is so key?
Sure, absolutely. Love to jump in here. So it's important not only to have the customer in mind, but I'd say the customer in your living room, or being in the customer's living room as well, and really living their experience, and gaining that empathy for whom you're serving, and really starting to understand what their pains are. What the greatest, gains could be in the journey that you're trying to both understand the pains in, but create solutions for. I have a great example of one of the initiatives that we've done here at Optum, and it was a weight loss product that we were trying to come up with. And if you can imagine, healthcare companies will send you a scale and have you measure your weight. But when we went into the customer's living room, and actually did, ethnographic research, we found that their desires and their pains were completely different. We interviewed a mom, and she said, you know what, I want to be outside playing with my children. I just want to feel more healthy. It had nothing to do with weight. So that really gets you to think differently about the solutions that you could bring to really help, that person that you're serving. So that's, to try and get them deep in your mind, but also get in their living room. So.
Yeah, no, it's a great example. And it's interesting this week, right? We have CES, right? That's going on. And I think a lot of people are there in Vegas. I'm sure they enjoyed the 2-hour blackout that happened yesterday. What I hear, everyone was using their iPhones. So that shows the true customer experience. It's happening. But anyway, what I've heard and been reading, as I'm sure many folks have probably read a lot too, is how much a lot of the things there are showing the customer transformation, right? And there's lots of drones there. They have AI and voice assistants that are helping with the design of smart products to get them even smarter. And if you look around and everything that you're seeing, it's exciting. And even I saw somewhere that the Wall by Samsung, which it won Best of Show, I think, in it's like the 146-inch modular LED TV, right? That's going to really change how people watch and buy TV. So it's just exciting, as we start looking at all the examples that not only show the value to the customer, but also how they're going to change behavior.
Yeah, right? I will echo that. Like, I spend a lot of time in people's homes, all over the homes, maybe too much time in other people's homes. But What we try to do is bring developers and engineers with us, because unless or until you go out there and experience it yourself and have these other professionals with you, there's just not a true understanding and appreciation for the trials and tribulations of people just to do everything in life. You know, people do a lot.
Any other examples that you can would like to highlight?
So I just want to reiterate about getting out in the field. So often everybody says, well, we design for the customer, we know what the customer wants. And then when you ask them, how do you know? You know, where's the research? They're like, well, we've been in this business for 20 years. We know what they want. And that's not an answer, or that is an answer, but that's the wrong answer. Because you probably don't really know what they want or need, and they might not know what they want or need. So, you know, getting out there and understanding the context of use, the essential jobs to be done is so crucial, because if you just get out and ask people, they likely won't be able to tell you what they really need. So it takes a lot of work. Somebody's saying that they can't hear the audio.
That's okay.
Okay.
Basically, if you try to toggle your sound, otherwise the record will have the sound. Okay. But yeah, it's interesting, Deborah, when you talk about examples of where, you know, the customer's not really considered as much, you know, and it's more technology led, right, versus customer led. You know, you hear stories about that. I know in one hangout, Aisha from LPL Financial had talked about how they'd moved down a path and they were all ready to launch because everybody was talking to themselves, right? They were, you know, in the boardroom and saying, yeah, this is exactly what we need. And no one ever checked in with the customer. And, you know, I think that's a real world situation for many companies, you know, and how critical it is. In fact, I know Simmons, one of our clients, they actually have a green chair, they call it, in their conference room. And the green chair is really the customer chair. And it's empty if there's no customer. But it's symbolic, right, to remind them to always think of the customer, which is kind of a cool idea. So anyway, so any other examples that are technology led and that didn't work, or anything else you want to raise?
I do remember a project many, many years ago where the company decided at some senior level that we were going to design a computer peripheral to help people surf the web. And a group of us who were in touch with customers said, well, why do they have what they need to surf the web? And they said, no, we want something new and different. And so we designed something for that, and we did as much as we could talking to some people on how they surf the web and stuff like that. But the base need just wasn't there. And although the design actually won a couple of awards because it was well done, nobody bought it.
Yeah.
You know, surprise, because at its heart, it wasn't necessary. And I think I've seen that other times, but that was one example.
Deborah, I love your idea around, you know, base need, and we talked a little bit about the jobs to be done, and it's interesting because I had a product that I worked on with a doctor, and doctor came into a fusion session, which is, you know, all around understanding the consumer and their journey, and he came up to me in the beginning of the meeting and he said, Ed, I know what I want. Let's just get we have everyone here. We have the designers, we have the developers. I'll just tell them what I want. And, you know, we'll, you know, start that process of designing. And I said, just give me a half a day. And we went through the jobs to be done. And he's like, you changed my whole mind. You know, now we're focused on personas, empathy. The job that we solved for in sleep was when we did our deep ethnographic research is we found out people hate their bed. So when they walk in their bedroom, they have a visceral reaction to their bed because they know they're not going to be able to sleep. So that became one of the problems we solved for, that a customer may or may not ever kind of tell you a feature, I hate my bed, but they're hiring you, and this is what we came up with, I hire you to love my bed again. right? That makes a deep emotional connection,
Yeah.
me a non-sleeper. That deep emotional connection causes you to think much differently about what solutions you're bringing to bear to market. So I love your idea about a base need.
Yeah, and I think I saw a question about what customer segments, and there is a notion of segments and personas, which is slightly different, but you do have to determine who you're working for and why you're chosen that specific group of people. So we do go out and sort of create our different personas, and it takes a long time. So when I interview someone, I'm there for at least an hour. And it takes at least half an hour before there's comfort because I'm a stranger, and before they open up about, what the real problems are. So it doesn't happen in a survey. It doesn't happen quickly, and it's a lot of very rewarding work.
And so there's a question about a base need as well. And to your point, Deborah, to trigger off of that, when you do this ethnographic research, one of the areas that I find people don't spend enough time on afterwards is the synthesis of that ethnographic research. And then that's how you start to evolve and find the true pains and the needs and those base needs. And it's a true art. But that's where you do a lot of discovery in what those true needs are.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time. We actually do literature reviews, which I know is not popular, but when we get into a new domain, and Bose is just releasing something for sleep, oddly enough. It was just on Indiegogo. But there was a lot of, we don't know sleep. What do we know about sleep? So you do some very, very foundational research online, Google Scholar, and then hire experts in the field to just talk to you and teach you before even going out to the field to talk to people. And then you go out to the field to talk to people. So there's a lot of basic work. And from that, what we try to do is generate a list of hypotheses. Like, what do we think we could do to help these problems we found?
Deborah, you're starting to get into a little bit of the process. Is there anything, like, if you think of almost like the checklist along the process that may benefit people as they're thinking about it sequentially?
Well, I think the sequence that I just talked about, actually, we do use, which is get to know the domain if it's a new domain. If it's a domain that you're very familiar with, you may not know all the aspects of it. So let's say that I'm from Bose, which I am, and we want to look at sound systems on cruise ships. So I don't know anything about cruise ships. I may know a lot about sound systems, but I would, research all about cruise ships, then talk to the different experts, people who design them, people who manage the activities there, people who clean the rooms, people who, and then I would, of course, have Bose pay for me to take a cruise.
That sounds sweet.
But, go in context. I don't think there is a notion of interviewing people just in a focus group or one-on-one in your lab, but I don't think that's nearly as rich as going out and meeting them in context where they are. And so those, you really have to do your homework before pretending that you know what the problems are. Because if you start designing without all your homework, you're going to miss something.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Deborah. And one of the infusion, what we do is we'll go look at incredible resources out there and deconstruct them. And one of the methodologies that we use is 101 designs. If people aren't familiar with that, but it gives a great kind of instructive process and methodology and a lot of tools that you can leverage. So it doesn't become a checklist per se, but it becomes a process and methodology that you're selecting different assets from or different methodologies from to achieve your objective. I call it, it's a mixture of both science and art. The science part is process, right? If you follow a method and process to the letter, you'll have an outcome. It's really interesting to think about, human-centered design or design thinking, because it's both that mixture of science and art, and the true artists know what tools to pick up when to create that beautiful outcome.
Yeah, and when you talk about design thinking, there's that notion of iteration, right? So once we have hypothesis, we build prototypes to test the hypotheses that are ugly and pseudo-functioning. We put them in the field and we get feedback. And, that's really useful because you'll find out pretty quickly where you're stupid.
Debra, there's one question over in the chat here that was directed to the comment you made earlier about the cruise line, which says, how do you take into account the end user or customer of your customer? Like with the cruise line? Maybe we could jump in and answer that.
Yeah, sure. We do distinguish between user and consumer or customer. So the person who buys the product may not be the person who consumes it, right? The ultimate dog food example. So the person who purchases dog food is hopefully never the person consuming it. And you have to take into account that they have different needs. And there is a journey for each one that is separate and must be honored, because you cannot just satisfy one. You must satisfy both. And so the person who purchases it is a different type of user. And the cruise ship example isn't the best example, but a lot of enterprise solutions, right? You have somebody in purchasing who will purchase your product, and their checklist of requirements bears no resemblance to the checklist of requirements of the end user. So there's an overlap with respect to user satisfaction or support and stuff like that, but they're separate users. They must be treated accordingly. And we have that with Bose too, with gifting. If you're buying our product as a gift or for yourself.
Yep. Great point. Hey, for the folks listening in, if you joined a little bit late, I just commented that our person who typically manages the chat and is on Twitter had taken ill. So I'm panelists are very nicely trying to jump back and forth between if there's questions in chat or anything. But what would be really helpful is if you do have questions, you could put them in the Ask a Question, and we will make sure to get to them at the end if they're not as related to some of the dialogue. But do know we're doing the best we can to jump around, okay? So thank you for your patience. And again, if you could take the polls, it helps us know how to tailor some of the answers. But again, we will get to anything in the Ask Questions at the end of the dialogue too, all right? So we're doing what we can to juggle here. So back into the dialogue here is, so Ed and Debra, we've talked a fair amount about, some of the processes and the principles with design thinking. Is there anything that you could add that says very specifically, here's what design thinking is with its approach, but then how that varies from what you're seeing other design approaches do? And then really the key principles, like, what you really want to make sure you do. Like you mentioned, Debra, go out to where they are, and so maybe just make it a little more specific, because people are doing things one way and other people are doing design thinking. And also people use design thinking to mean many different things.
Yeah. Did you want, Ed, I was just talking for a lot, so why don't you start?
Yeah, sounds great. I would say that, one of the things that we do in Fusion is we tend to think outside of design thinking and human-centered design, meaning taking that as one of the core areas. But if you think about business strategy, as a designer and becoming part of that business strategy, and another framework that we leverage is called the 10 types of innovation. And there's really three primary areas of the 10 types of innovation. One is experience, and I consider that the human-centered design aspect, making sure you're doing that deep ethnographic research, as Debra pointed out, understanding whom you're serving, what experiences you want to provide to them, because that's a key part of innovation. And then the other major modules of it is what's your business model? So what are your models? What are your partnership models? What are your revenue models? So understanding that. And then finally, platform. And that's where you can start to think about, the product offering and what that looks like to the different constituents and how you segment and all that. So I'd almost encourage a yes and to human-centered design and that, as design principles and designers within the company, that's where you want to be. You want to be ahead in the strategy, doing the experience thinking that and human-centered design thinking that we all should be doing, but then getting a part of that business strategy, because that breaks the barrier between someone walking in and saying, I know what I want, I know my business, here are my business objectives, to say, we can have a true innovation in the marketplace, a true experience in the marketplace. So kind of broadening and expanding your thinking around not just human-centered design, core principle, have to do it, need to do it, but how do we think about strategy and our business strategy and bringing that in and what impact you can have on the business?
That's a really great point, because, I mean, the days of the lone genius are kind of behind us, or they're really rare, and I am not a lone genius and I don't know any. So we try to have a team of a minimum of 3 people, one who's a business analyst or, business development type of person, one who's a technologist, and then one who focuses on the user, and nobody's the boss, which is interesting because all decisions are consensus, which leads to very good discussions, because everybody wins if everybody wins. And it works, but there are a lot of very long discussions, and it's exhausting. But if you just have one idea, one viewpoint, you're not going to win in the market.
Yeah, very, very, very true. And, we've talked about a lot of the process steps and the key principles of design thinking. And, in the end, it's going out and making sure that we're observing, seeing, interacting, doing ethnography, et cetera, right, with the people that are actually going to be the customers, right?
And I think, we've found unique ways to apply human-centered design. So we had a team come to us and say, hey, we're looking to develop business in this specific area. And you wouldn't think human-centered design could apply to business development, but we said, wow, that's super interesting. Why don't we get a group of consumers together, the buyers together, human-centered design folks, business development folks, development architects, and have a meeting to see what we can create around a true need. And so you don't typically think of human-centered design in business development, but it had an amazing impact and outcome, because you're becoming transparent, you're becoming vulnerable in front of the people you're trying to sell, but you're trying to create solutions. So you're gaining that true empathy, the true need, and your outcome's going to be much, much better. But you have to have that vulnerability to actually want to do something like that. But the outcomes are tremendous. So apply it across the business in every way.
Yeah, it's astounding how difficult humility is. It's, to, in a business meeting, say, I don't know, or, I'm worried. Those types of phrases just don't typically land well. And so you need a team that you can trust to, go through that. But I shouldn't be surprised anymore, but the confident person usually wins arguments. And that might not be the person who should be winning this argument.
Yeah, so true. And about any meeting you're in, right? It doesn't matter if it's just for designing. So Debra, can you talk a little bit about, with this design approach, does it vary by industry, or is this hold true across industries?
Full disclosure, my undergrad degree was industrial design, so I'm going to say the process is universally applicable. However, I think the process varies a great deal, whether you're in an innovation space versus an incremental improvement space. I don't think the foundational research is as beneficial in an incremental approval. I think that getting prototypes out there and in the field is invaluable. It's super useful in both. And you have more data from which to pull in an incremental improvement situation, because hopefully you have customer support data. Hopefully you have information from product usage statistics and stuff like that. So you can pull that hard data and glean information from that. I mean, we certainly have people whose data analytics skills are, I can't do that. And they can pull insights. So the quantitative analysis might help you more when you're not in the early innovation stages. I don't know if that answered your question.
It sounded great to me. So Ed, let's talk a little bit about when we're trying to improve the customer experiences. All companies now are trying to say, okay, how do we do that? How do we fit that into our corporate strategy? How do we truly make things transformational, right? I mean, it's a pretty common topic now, I think, within, executives at companies and across the board. So what are some of the considerations a company needs to take to get started along this path?
Yeah, so consideration-wise, it's interesting. I think discovery is a consideration. So, we have a large company. We have MedExpress as a part of our business portfolio. So having folks in a room, a multidisciplined, whether it be senior executives, in our case, it's doctors, it's having patients. So consideration is discovery, even if it's incremental innovation or finding that true innovation. So we had MedExpress, we held a fusion session for, and this is all public. So we created, as you can imagine, an urgent care center. So we went through the full experience of their patient from the moment in their home when someone doesn't feel well and has a cold. How do I best create an experience for someone that's in that condition? So looked at that and we said, wow, they really need a mobile scheduling app, which is everyday common thing that you need to do. But we said, wow, what if at the same time they're scheduling because they don't feel well, that they could call an Uber? So you're automatically changing an experience for something that's becoming, commoditized in a way. Urgent care, they're everywhere, right? But you're creating that differentiated consumer experience and thinking about, the partnerships that would elevate the experience. So, consideration is you should always be doing discovery, even if you're running an existing business, and taking that moment in time to say, what could we be doing differently? Considerations are, what tools and techniques are you using to change your mindset? And that's one of the things that we've found is, things like the jobs to be done creates that 1 degree shift in someone's thinking to say, it's not a feature, it's a need. And why is someone hiring, or why would someone hire, a capability? What are they looking to achieve? So thinking differently is a huge consideration in my mind. And how do you actually lead people through that 1 degree shift in their mind to say, wow, this could be a true discovery? Considerations are, what tools are you using? Is it, ethnographic research, personas, journey mapping, the 10 types of innovation to, again, create that shift in someone's mindset?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have one of our hangouts was how do you change a culture, right, for innovation. And I think that's a very, very, if you Google it, right, I mean, there's so many different assets and webinars and, hangouts and everything on the topic, because I think everybody struggles with that. And for folks listening in, our website is altitudeinc.com. And under the Insights tab, if you just search by webinars, you'll see all the Innovation by Design hangouts, and that's one of them. And, it was a very popular one, for that reason. I think everybody's trying to figure out what's that, gold shiny star that's going to, make it happen for us.
Yeah, and I think we're lucky because I go out and talk to the customer, and I can create videos that tell stories that have an emotional nugget that is honest. And that is probably one of the most persuasive tools that you have to ensure that everybody understands, like, this is real. This person has a problem, a need, whatever. I'm not telling you. This person is telling you. And that's really lovely. And I'm very lucky that we do that. So we do a lot of storytelling. We do try to figure out the quickest, most efficient, and persuasive way to get the message across.
Yeah, Deborah, I love that. There's a great video by Doug Dietz on TED Talks, and it shows how it has to do with MRIs and an MRI machine and how scary it is. But when children go through that process, it's even that much worse, and they end up getting a shot to actually calm them to go through that process. And the video is tremendous, but it ends up being that Doug looks at that journey, understands that journey, and totally transforms the MRI experience with, kids end up jumping, on rocks and going into the MRI machine. It's a boat, and they have fish jumping over them, and it truly becomes an experience. And we show that during fusion sessions, and people literally cry.
Yeah.
But the point of that is to gain that deep empathy. And create that 1 degree shift that get people go, we really need to solve for this person.
Yeah, we've had that with our earphones, with helping people with hearing loss, where a grandfather just has to choose between, shelter and buying a hearing aid, and just can't, and you give them something that's more affordable, and suddenly they can communicate with their grandchildren, and they tell that story. It's very moving, and it's why I love my job. Let's not forget.
I think some of these stories, too, if you look at the whole journey, right? I mean, it's so important to remember that, just like the Doug Dietz one with the MRI, right? When he talks about it, he also says, they really had to look at the dialogue that the parents had with the child on their way in to get the MRI and things like that. And if you really look at the whole journey, I think you get a lot more ideas of how to improve the full experience. It's not just that one and done, MRI in that case.
Yeah, that's
right?
a great point.
So,
the interaction with your product begins before they have your product.
Exactly. So Debra, we talked a little bit about Design Management Institute's study, which says the S&P 500 companies that invested in design processes and capabilities, leadership over the past decade, that they outperform the rest of the index by 211%, right? Which is pretty impressive and says a lot for, really looking at design and what's the right way to do it, right? Can you share the design-led methodologies that you believe winning companies are using like these?
So just 2 quick points. One is it's very sad that there has to be an ROI for user-centered design or design-led methodologies when there is no ROI for engineering or business or marketing. It is an integral part. You need it to create your stuff. Because if you're not creating, if you don't know who you're working for and what they need, you have nothing. So the fact that we need these conversations makes me sad. And numbers, I find the number 211% a little kind of funny because some of the numbers are squishy. However, there's another study done in the 90s, I can send you the link for that studied, that was a meta-analysis of companies that succeeded via innovation. And they came to a similar conclusion, very similar conclusion. So it is a consistent story that we've seen told over again. I don't know whether 211, I cannot speak to that. You can measure incremental improvement by customer support numbers, by things like that. You can measure development improvement by time to market and or how many times you needed an engineering change order, or when decisions were made and then somebody comes in last minute and says, I don't like that. And because they believe it's a matter of opinion versus a matter of research, they can change the direction of the development. So I think from that perspective, if you have done your homework, if you have synthesized your research and presented it in a compelling manner, you can reduce the time to market. You can reduce confusion. You can provide the people in sales. I provide presentations for salespeople for like, this is the story. This is why people will buy it, and this is what to tell them. So it is not as measurable, I think, and I believe that they tried to take all those things into account. There's also some Forrester reports that report the same thing. I think it was Forrester, I can't remember who said companies that measure emotional response to products are winning. So that's the latest thing that people should measure. I answered your question without answering your question with hard numbers, but I think that there are a lot of factors to take into account: time to market, customer support, just innovation success. So the study I was talking about, these were companies that were successful in launching new products that provided innovation, and that launch had tremendous sales. So it was a very good study, and it mimics what this study is saying essentially.
Yeah, if you send me that
Yep.
link, what I can do is include it in the email I sent out
I
on
can do
Monday.
that.
Since normally, or if you have it handy and you want to put it in the chat, that's great.
I
Depends
don't.
if you
I'm
can
sorry.
multitask.
I should have.
Okay, no, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. But I'll add it for folks listening in. I'll add the reference to them on the email we sent out.
I was
Okay.
only smiling because at argument you can't A/B test human-centered design versus non-human-centered design. You're either doing it or you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's a good point.
if someone wanted to, fund that study through one of the local, institutions, I think it would be a winner.
It's probably true, Ed.
Nobody's
Oh my
going to
gosh.
want to be the
So Ed-
control.
Right. That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
Good point. That's a good point. Technology-led versus design-led. Right? So Ed, we've talked a little on continuous design in the past, and can you just talk about this and its relevance here?
Sure, definitely. I mean, continuous design, I think of it in a multitude of ways. One is, I think of experiments. You could say prototypes, but if you're in the early stages, continuous design to me is getting that constant feedback from your experiments. And it's, what are we looking to learn? It's an incredible question to ask from your experiment. So, and then creating that continuity of experiments too, to say we're looking to learn this. What did we learn? Let's adjust and change. And did you prove your hypothesis or disprove it, or what did you learn? And that really creates that continuous design in understanding. And one of the, I think it's a misconception is even in business thinking is it's one and done. Like we're going to fund a project, we're going to fund a product. And, you have a certain level of funding, but that's actually not the point. It's to, prove your experiments along the way and create that beautiful experience, but making sure you evolve that experience as well. And that's how I think about continuous design.
Yeah, I think the whole conversation that happens when people talk about design thinking is to iterate.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it's not one and done, and make sure that, you really are learning from all those experiences, interactions you're having with the customer, and, be okay with maybe you go to market when it's not perfect, but, know that you may make some changes and go to market again. Right? And I think that's really, really key. For the folks listening in, we're going to ask a few more questions of the panelists, and then we will take your questions. I see there's a few in the Ask a Question tab. So again, please submit them there and vote on the ones you want to make sure that we ask, but we should be able to get to all of them. We'll make sure we allow time. So with that, I'd like to jump in and ask the panelists a few more questions. So Ed, we've talked about examples already on, design thinking and how we really are helping to impact the customer experience. But the topic of this is really transforming experiences, having that huge impact, right? Maybe I'll say at a higher degree. So is there anything more that you want to add about really how behavior has changed? And then how do you uncover that behavior? Because sometimes customers don't know what they really need, right? So how do you find these great opportunities that really are transformational?
Yeah, I think, some of the aspects that we talked about today, doing the ride-alongs, and, getting with your customers. I think the greatest example is Airbnb. where Paul Graham, I believe, said to the Airbnb team, they were in California and their customer base at the time was in New York. And he said to them, "What are you doing here?" And the expectation was they'd go to their customers in New York. And when they were with their customers, there's probably some folklore around the story as well, but they posed as photographers. So they said to their customers, hey, your website pictures are crappy of your apartment. Can we come in and take new pictures for you? But what they were doing is ethnographic research. And that led to, improvement of their site and their offering, and they took better photographs of the client's, apartment. But really getting that true understanding. So, and that's how I believe breakthroughs come from, unique ways. But I think it always ends up being in ethnographic research. We do the same here. We do ride-alongs with nurse practitioners, and we have coffee at their house, and do ride-alongs in their cars, and see how they interact with patients. And one of the breakthroughs we had is they had a computer, a notepad, a router, and you can imagine walking into a person's home to do an assessment as a nurse, and that's pretty challenging. So our discovery was, let's put that on one device. I mean, it sounds very common sense, but until you truly experience someone's day, and the outcome there was with a nurse practitioner, instead of typing their notes in after their dinner, being away from their family, they can enjoy time with their family. And that's a breakthrough. If you improve someone's life, that's exactly why I do healthcare, is because everything I do improves someone's life. But that's what we're all looking to do, is put that beautiful experience out there that changes someone's life.
Yeah, that's really, obviously in Bose, I don't care whether the speaker sounds great. I care whether I'm delivering an experience that calms them down or energizes them for their workout or makes a party more social, or I don't really care about the performance of the product. I care about what the product's performance does to their life's performance. And in that way, you're providing intrinsic value, because people are trying to do things. People are trying to live a happy life, and it's hard. And I love thinking that I can do something to make their life just a little easier, because I'm not out there because I think that everybody needs a great speaker. I certainly don't care about that in the larger sense. Which is why when I go into homes and things like that, I do not talk about the speakers. I don't. I talk about why they need it, what they use it for. We have people who use our noise canceling headphones because they have traumatic brain injury, and autistic children can't handle the overload of sound. And unless or until we went out and saw people doing this, we would never have known. So it's very rewarding. But if you look at not to get all psychology on it, but the Maslow's need hierarchy.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm trying to address needs. Are they being more social? Are they getting more out of their family and friends? Do they feel like they can achieve to be their best selves? And we do ask those questions, and it sounds very, not silly, but like not applicable. But you have to ask the deeper questions. And people love talking about it. It's not hard to do. That's the kicker. Like, if you think you're going to go out there pulling teeth, you're not. People will open up about it. So it's not that hard.
And showing you have that empathy, I think, appeals to people very much so, right? It's like, if you're taking their time to talk with them, show you care. And you really do want to hear what they have to say. So very important. It's interesting at Altitude, when we talk about transformation, we had helped Jarden develop the Margaritaville, which is a premium frozen drink maker. And it was interesting because they came to us for new blender design, back to the point of, okay, I know what I want. Yeah. I'm sure I know what a customer wants. They want a new blender, right? It's time. And we went out, just like you guys are both saying, Debra and Ed, about we interviewed people, we looked at all the uses and watched how they're using blenders. And it was really interesting because you mentioned party, Debra. So, we realized we're like, you know what? Some of them they're avid party goers. They want to know that they have a blender at their party. They want to know it makes the perfect margarita, for example. And we learned, it's a conversation piece. It's not just off on the side, right? And, they want something that's easy to clean up. They want a perfect margarita with shaved ice, all these wonderful laundry list of things they wanted. But we came back and designed a premium priced frozen drink maker as opposed to a blender, right? It had shaved ice. It entered Jarden into a whole new category, and immediately off the bat sold $1 million of product. And I say that because it was an iterative process of listening to the consumers, asking the why, like we're talking about here, to really uncover the real customer need and the perceived value, as opposed to just saying, okay, you want a blender, here's a blender. Going out, really observing, really figuring out what will make them tick. And that was really transformational, a whole new category, not something that had been thought about before. And, it was one of their best sellers. So.
What's the name of that again? I love margaritas.
The Margarita Premium Frozen Drink Maker.
Write that
and
down.
Don't quote me, but I think it was $250 or $350 blender. I mean, it was a very expensive blender, and it sold. Because again, remember, it was a conversation piece, not just a blender. Right? But shaved ice with the margarita made it pretty darn good. But, that was even something we really had to look at and how we could make that work. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of exciting to build. So, but anyway, moving on. So Ed, kind of just doing a little switch here. We've talked along the same lines about how important the customer is, but, you've been doing this a while. What do you wish you knew before you got started in design that, now, so you'd want to impart that on folks, as they go down this path?
I think, I wish I knew that all the things that we're talking about today, because I think experience-wise, you're building them incrementally over, at least I did, incrementally over time, and you realize this is the right method, this is the right way. And there are great resources out there that can accelerate you. I wish I knew about those resources like 101 Designs, the 10 types of innovation, Google Sprint, even though at Intuit Innovation Labs we were doing portions of it. I wish I had that holistic view. So, and I think a lot of the elements of, the right way to do it are out there today. So I wish I had learned that much earlier in my career, such that I could have applied them holistically and be that artist that we talked about before. Because the science is the methodologies, but the artist is what to apply when. So if I had that earlier in my career, that would have accelerated me. So I wish I had known and had all those tools available, but at the same time, it's a little bit of experience building at the same time. So,
yeah,
a great point. For the folks listening in, also, I just want to add that I know we have not been able to have someone in the chat giving you links to some of these things we're referencing. So what I'll do is I'll do a blog that will probably be up Tuesday or so next week, and I'll make sure to put some links in of the things that we're referencing, so you can always look up in our blogs. Okay, and we're at altitudeinc.com. Debra, were you just going to jump in and say something?
So what I wish I knew, I was going to answer that question.
Okay.
Just that I spent so much of my career focusing on program management and getting a product to market and making sure that we would meet the timeline and we could do it and, it'll get on the shelves and packaged and all that good stuff. And the deeper I got into program management, the less satisfied I felt about my work. And I wasn't that great at it. I wish somebody had said, your passion for the customer, the end user, you can make a career out of that. Go with it. Because so often you're in a room full of people who are just like, can you get results? Can you get it done? Can you get the product out the door? And I was so focused on that I didn't focus earlier on enough. I didn't fight hard enough for the customer. And I didn't realize how beneficial it was. And so now I have more street cred because I've done it,
All right.
Yeah. I can go to China and make sure the manufacturer is there and all that stuff. But it is more beneficial for me and more fun for me to make sure at the very beginning we're doing the right thing.
Makes sense. Very, very good input. So for the folks listening in, let me just say that we're just going to do a quick wrap with each of the panelists, quick summary, and then we're going to go to the questions. I do very much thank our panelists, and I want to remind folks listening in that our website is altitudeinc.com. There's many free, valuable resources on the Insights tab. In our next Hangout in 2 weeks will be the next generation of IoT, designing with data in mind. We'll have AARP, UnitedHealth Group again, thank you, and also Accenture will be speaking on that. And that will be available and linked to in your Monday email. So it'll be a very informative email you receive Monday. So anyway, with that, let's just do the top takeaways. So Ed, I'm going to have you go first in terms of what are the couple things that you want to make sure the folks remember out of our dialogue today. Of course, hopefully they remember everything, but just a couple takeaways. And then Debra, I'll have you do that. Let's jump to the questions.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I loved a lot of the commentary from Debra in terms of, deep ethnographic research and making sure that you create a hypothesis and synthesize. I think those are the key, attributes around having that breakthrough discovery. So probably more than two things, but.
Excellent. Debra.
I'll take it to one. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. And maybe add the second is call other people on it, because when they say they know, they probably don't.
Okay. And customer, make sure they're at the center there, right? So, all right, with that, again, excellent dialogue, but let's make sure we're, as promised, that we get to the questions. So for the panelists, you can see them if you click on the Ask a Question. So Debra, this one is for you. At what level in your organization does business analyst and technologist and user-centric individual come together and collaborate? And to whom do the action items resulting from the collaboration trickle down?
So we, like many companies, have a matrix organization, and there's been experiments on whether people all report up to the same person, but at what level? Like, I do it. I don't know what level I am. I'm not a director. I'm mid-level. But the people who make sure that we have those three people on every team, they're VP level. So they are bought in. And our new CEO, because we had a transition not too long ago, is all in. So he's very aware that this is how the teams work. There's the trickle down is, we have teams of people who support, the prototype development and data gathering, and that goes forward, not down, because it goes forward to the development team, which is sort of the same level. So I'm not quite sure I understand the question properly. So if you want to clarify the question, I'm more than happy to. But the concept.
Yeah, Hansel, if you want to put anything additional in, feel free to, and we'll try to address it.
I think okay, one of the interesting things is to that question. That's one of the reasons we came up with Fusion, is because we have a huge multi-hundred thousand person company, and what we'd see is silos in terms of business strategists, product strategists, designers, and we said what we really need to do is fuse these organizations together for a great outcome. And that's really where the brand Fusion was born. But it could be at any level in terms of who's looking to solve a particular problem and bringing the right people in a room to get that problem solved by focusing on the end user, all the things that we talked about today. So I'd say try and break the barriers of organizations, and it doesn't matter at what level, who can be that subject matter expert in the particular craft to get the outcome that you're looking for. So we try and it's not in a particular organization, but we try and span all organizations for the right outcome.
Ed, your comment here relates very much to the next question. So I'm going to ask it, and if there's anything either of you want to add. Where in the organization do research and design teams sit? Tech, marketing, product? Are they deployed like SWAT teams or embedded capabilities?
Ed, are you doing that, or is that me?
Why don't you each
Okay,
give a
I'll just give
perspective
a
on
quick
that?
answer. Where I am is in research and concept development, which is pre-product development. And we are all in the same organization at this time. That was not always the case. There used to be a user-centered design group and a technology research group and a business group. They used to be separate. We are now all together. So we don't all report up to the same manager, but we all report up to the same VP.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, almost to Debra's comment, we have different facets in how we operate because we're such a large company. But I'd say I love even the comment around a SWAT team because that's how I think about it, as well as getting the team of teams together to solve what you're looking to achieve. So that could sit anywhere. It could be in, it could be in ideation, right? You want the right, team of teams together. It could be in research and development. It could be, in design, or it could span the organization. So I love the concept of the team of teams or the SWAT team.
Great. I believe that we got to all the questions that were in the chat, but if there was any in the chat that did not get answered, please move them over to ask a question, and then we'll continue a few more here. The other one here is the human-centered design approach seems to be a natural approach for all the panelists. Yes. Has it always been a natural part of your employees' skill sets? How do you ensure everyone demonstrates this way of thinking and continues to at your organization? Ed, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I mean, being a part of a large organization, we have human-centered design educational courses that people can take. It's very much at the center of healthcare and how we think. But I think really communicating the importance of it, much like we did today, and the big why of why you do it, because it's important for whom we serve. It's a discovery methodology. And it could be, you could be designing an internal product for a call center agent, and it's just, as important to understand what their daily life is like. So it's applicable everywhere. And I think being a champion and advocate for it will really kind of create that 1 degree shift if your company doesn't have it already.
Yeah, so I will say that that Bose has not traditionally been super, super up on that because their birth was from technology innovation. And I do actually teach a class at Bose that has happily been popular to explain what user-centered design is, how it works. So there is education required, and you do need to get buy-in from people up the chain. And we have gotten that. It's not perfect, and nothing is, but if this is new to your company, you have to swallow that pill that you have to advocate again and again and again.
Excellent. Debra, I'll ask you to give a brief answer for this one last question. How important is simplicity in design?
I think it depends on the product. I think that a product that is simple and or easy to use is very important, but that does not mean that the design behind it is simple. Sometimes there's a lot of complexity.
Yeah, good point. All right, we're at the top of the hour. I absolutely want to thank our panelists, Ed from UnitedHealth Group with Fusion, and also Debra from Bose. Absolutely appreciate the excellent insights, lively dialogue. Appreciate everyone taking time out of their busy days listening in. And I want to wish everyone to have a wonderful day, and feel free to visit our website, altitudeinc.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.